Good morning. Welcome back to Morning at NTV. My name is Malaki Vilodera. Now today on the Kickstarter segment, it's Kickstarter, not on the ground. Apologies for that particular hitch. We are talking about the national dialogue. Yesterday we saw in the dailies a development, and so it has been postponed. And what has been postponed? Of course, the launch of the national dialogue. It was meant to happen on the 21st of November, of course, this month, but now it has been postponed to the 18th of December, just a few days after the date as to which the president is meant to meet the iPod kind of members. So what does this mean? And what undertones are we not reading into? So to dissect this particular development is Mr. Chifampa Siraja in studios to talk about that and so much more. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, our viewers.
Good morning.
Yes.
So we've seen this development. Of course, it's been a push and pull for quite a number of days now. Of course, since November, actually before even November started, it's been a huge conversation. And so a huge push and pull. Them that are organizing it are saying, you know what, we're optimistic it's going to happen. Political parties, especially the opposition, seemingly trying to frustrate the entire process. What's your take on this? What have you been noticing over the past few days?
First of all, I'll give you my honest opinion about the national dialogue. The national dialogue in principle is long overdue. Uganda as a country has gone through a lot. We need that healing process. We have so many unanswered questions that have happened since independence. We've never had a peaceful transfer of power. Every time we are changing from one leadership to another, blood of Ugandans has to be shed in huge amounts. The economy does not work for each and every Ugandan. When you look at the health sector, today people will tell you that hospitals, government hospitals have become death traps. That's why you see today more private hospitals are coming up and they are doing well. There are several things that the corruption that is in the country, the murders, the unanswered murders, the Muslim question actually has not been answered at all, and so many questions that have not been answered. So the national dialogue is long overdue. However, my perspective of the national dialogue is that of pessimism, not optimism.
Why not optimism?
The reason is very simple. We've had several consultations across the country, but they've never been respected. In 1995, when the 1995 Constitution was promulgated, we had a nationwide consultation with Professor Sempe's commission. We had the Odoshi Commission. We came up with a constitution that involved each and every Ugandan. A few years down the road, President Museveni abused the constitution and changed it to favor himself. The term limits were removed. After consultation, and the preamble of that constitution looks, owing to our history, that what this country has gone through. That's why we decided as Ugandans to come up with this constitution. But a few years down the road, term limits are removed. A few years again, age limit is removed. As if that wasn't enough, just 2016, if I could remember, my memory could remind me well, there was a national consultation led by SEDU. It's a civil organization.
Right. On electoral processes.
And many other civil society organizations. They came up with what we called the Citizens Compact. They launched it at Hotel Africana, if I could remember well. Even the Secretary General of the NRM attended the Citizens Compact. Did anything come to be implemented? Nothing at all. So what assurance can you give Ugandans that Mr. Museveni, the president, who is also a protagonist in this country, can sit on a round table with other people and respects the resolutions of
But he actually met the Interreligious Council and the conveners of this particular national dialogue on Tuesday this week. And he gave them that assurance that, you know what, he is pro this particular national dialogue and he supports it in totality. Now, what the conveners and the organizers said with regards to why it's being postponed from the 21st to the 18th of, December is that, and I will quote this, they said they needed more time to do nationwide consultation, more consultations countrywide. Now, they say that so far they have only covered this particular regions. Now, they say Teso sub-region, Busoga, Acholi, Elgon, Ruwenzori, Teso, West Nile, and among others. And so he said, they actually said that so far they've only been able to consult 3,000 citizens, and there's need to do more consultations. So on those grounds, and also on grounds that opposition still needs more time to look into this particular framework, hence the postponement.
I'm telling you, my views are the views of majority of the opposition members. Why? They are very pessimistic about President Museveni's seriousness in this dialogue. Secondly, if you say that at the 18th of December, what assurance do we have that the entire country will be covered? The conveners themselves of this national dialogue, the Interreligious Council, the Elders Forum of Uganda, I can tell you, majority of these people have served in Museveni's government, either as ministers. You look at Madam Maggie Chigozi, you look at Justice Ogola, you look at the Interreligious Council, all these religious leaders, with due respect to these religious leaders. Mr. Museveni has been giving them cars, has been giving them goodies.
Do you have evidence to that?
No, this is not a secret. It's an open secret that President Museveni has been extending a hand to religious leaders. The other time he gave them 500 million shillings when they met him in Rachitula. So I'm telling you, it's very hard that these people will say anything that is against the president. If at all, in this dialogue, the main the point of discussion would be, how does Museveni leave power? Will Museveni respect that? If you want to say that, Mr. Museveni, it's high time that you've served your term. You've done a lot for this country. It's time you stepped aside so that Uganda can move on as a country.
But is that for the conveners to say, or the stakeholders that will come on the table?
I mean the stakeholders.
Yes.
Will Museveni respect that?
He could respect it, because I will quote what Justice Ogola said, and I'm just quoting so that I don't say what is not there. And this is what he said: "We all agreed that the launch of the national dialogue will take place, and I refute allegations and reports that President Museveni has refused to participate in the launch of the national dialogue." This is according to Justice Ogola, who is the key convener of this particular dialogue.
I agree that the launch will take place. But if you bring President Museveni as a guest of honor, we can make it a national conference. Ugandans can sit and talk to each other, but that cannot be called a national dialogue. Because I told you, the opposition views Mr. Museveni, and majority of Ugandans view Mr. Museveni as a protagonist. Now, when he comes here as a chief guest of honor to launch, are we on equal footings?
So what you're saying is that he's not supposed to be the one launching this particular dialogue.
He should be just like any other ordinary participant in this national dialogue. Who should represent him? He should be represented with his people, and him coming as a leader for the NRM in terms of politics. But coming as a guest of honor, that ceases to be a national dialogue. The other thing I would like to tell you is that the Attorney General said that he sees no sense in the national dialogue. Why? Because Uganda as a government has got institutions that are independent and functioning. He talked of the parliament, he talks of the courts of law, he talks of so many other institutions. And he says, now, and this is the question that the conveners should answer, and it has been looming for some time, that after the dialogue, the national dialogue, then what? Where will those resolutions go? Who is going to implement those resolutions? Because even those resolutions should have a legal backing, that probably they went through a legal process of the parliament, approved it, then they passed a budget. Who is going to finance that? They passed a budget that is going to see the process through. Then after The resolutions were taken to Parliament, debated, and looked at the way how they can be implemented. But there is no legal backing. These are people who have got a good heart for Uganda, who think that there should be sitting, Ugandans should sit and talk to each other. True, but after that, what next?
Okay, all right. And of course, let's get the views of the opposition. We have FDC and DP with regards to this particular national dialogue. Let's take a look.
No longer participate in IPOD meetings when the NRM does not bring its leader. So eventually, I think the IPOD spoke to Museveni, and instead of convening a meeting of IPOD, Museveni chose to host IPOD as if he was hosting an organ of NRM. For us, Mr. Museveni must come to IPOD meetings as NRM chairman.
He is realizing that this is the time for us to grow multipartyism. Otherwise, he risks ending up like the way Kwame Nkrumah's party ended up, or the way Kanu ended up.
FDC spokesperson and Chief Opposition Parliamentary Chief Whip Ibrahim Semujunganda insists that IPOD meetings must be held in a neutral venue and not in State House for the proceedings to be credible.
Mr. Museveni himself, for us as FDC, is illegitimate. So his continued stay in State House must be one of the issues to be discussed by the IPOD. In fact, when we are briefed by our colleagues to do the agenda, Museveni as a person and Museveni as a leader must be part of what we are going to discuss in those IPOD meetings.
I am not saying State House is bad. It's a government entity. But
so there's still an issue with IPOD, the Inter-Party Organization on Dialogue, and people are saying it seems like there's a competition right there. Of course, they met the president just a few weeks ago, and he agreed that, you know what, this time round, I will come. And I agree, we need to have a conversation. But people have been saying, if now it seems like IPOD is really realizing their target and the president is supporting this, then what then? The national dialogue, what has, what's remaining for the national dialogue?
As if I had a conversation before with other political leaders, like you've had them. I'm telling you, if President Museveni is coming as a president in the dialogue with all the state apparatus, to come and attend the national dialogue, that ceases to be a national dialogue, because a national dialogue should be between parties of all who are all equal. People should be equal to each other. Everyone should have the mandate of saying whatever he feels like he should say. But President Museveni comes to lodge, then goes back to the State House, like when he mentioned of the debates when they called him, he said that those were primary school debates. Now later on he comes and appears and like a president. So if a national dialogue is to be there, like Honorable Samjo has said, that IPOD invites President Museveni, but what President Museveni does to call them to State House, there you go, he hosts them in the State House. So you're talking with a president, a sitting president, then that brings about some kind of a contradiction.
After that, the president actually agreed that, you know what, on the 12th of December, we will meet at a neutral venue. He agreed.
But I'm telling you, I know President Museveni for quite some time, as long as I've been around. He's one person who is one statement, the other day he changes to another one.
So he will change it this one?
This one I'm telling you, he can come. That he has no problem, because on attending that national dialogue works for him, by the way, because on PR internationally, he will show the international community that even I sit with opposition, forgetting that he said that in 2021 there will not be opposition. I will eat you like sambusas, I'll crush you, and so many other statements that he made. So he'll come as a president and looks at you, you discuss, we talk whatever, you come up with resolutions. He says, yes, we are going to take it to the NRM caucus and look through it. Now he talks of the NRM caucus, but meaning himself that he will go and look through it. Now, which kind of dialogue would that be?
Let me ask you a question. Of course, IPOD is going to have its meeting just before the launch of the national dialogue. And questions have been, because it seems like the opposition is just key to hear the president say that, you know what, I support the peaceful transition of power. Don't you think the opposition is being unreasonable if that is the only thing, if the dialogue, both in IPOD and national dialogue, is just pegged on the president saying that? Isn't that being unreasonable?
Not the president.
No.
But answering...
That's what opposition wants. And the grounds of FDC, they say, if this dialogue is not about the peaceful transition of power, we do not support it.
Let me tell you this, my sister Mara. One, we are answering a question that has never been answered, the political question, where we saw more than 500,000 of Ugandans dying in 1986 as President Museveni was coming to power. You know what happened in 1966 and 68 when President Obote was overthrowing the Kabaka? You know what happened in 1979 when Amin was being overthrown from power? You know what happened in Libya after President Gaddafi, they led, spending 42 years in power and not preparing for anything like a peaceful transfer, what Libyans are going through. So the political question is bigger than any other thing in this dialogue. If opposition parties are saying that we should discuss the exit, the peaceful exit of President Museveni and the transition to another president, which is peaceful, I'm totally 2,000% in agreement with them. And I'm telling you, even if we talked of the economy that works for every Ugandan, how? When the president is the one who is appointing whoever he wants, and you not question him appointing. No, just look at this. Uganda has never been for Ugandans. The institutions of Uganda have never been for Ugandans. Look at the UPDF. The UPDF, the president himself has claimed on several occasions that the UPDF is his personal army. I'm telling you, because even when you look at the structure of the UPDF, you have a CDF who is coming from his house. You have the chief of the SFC, his son. You look at the CMI, you look at the ISO, all are his relatives who are heading. Now, look at other institutions of government. Who is heading them?
When you say that the economy, as you come to a close, the economy is actually failing. Of course, just a few days ago, there's a private arm, of course, this is from private sector and NGOs. They did a report and they said that the reason as to why the economy of the country is not moving to the next level or actually growing at the speed that it's supposed to grow at is because we are seemingly lazy as Ugandans. So can we entirely blame everything that is not going right on the presidency of this country as we come to a close?
Ugandans are seemingly lazy, that they don't work.
That's according to the report that was released.
The most unchallenging, but if you ask Andrew Machamagero, he'll tell you how hundreds and thousands of Ugandans every morning at around 6:30 are walking on foot to come to town to make
hustle.
ends meet. Now, when someone says that Ugandans are lazy, maybe the government has not equipped this youth, the youth that are supposed to revamp the economy by working. Let the government explain what it has done to say that it skills the youth to be the next generation that will revamp this economy.
Okay.
But saying that they are lazy, I think that is a sweeping statement that shouldn't be said.
So you're refuting the claims of that particular report.
The claims.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for coming in studios. We are running short of time. This is a conversation that is, of course, developing. The national dialogue being postponed. We thought that the launch would be on the 21st of November this month, but it's now been pushed to the 18th of December. So we're watching this space. Let's see what happens in the coming days. That has been the conversation here on Kickstarter. Keep your views coming. We are on the hashtag Morning at 10 TV across all the social media platforms. Keep it here.
You're watching Morning at NTV.